Hi there. I'm going to take you through the new update. It's actually an probably an October 6th update. First thing I want to take you through is the object editor has changed a bit. There was a bug that caused I believe it's the object editor to show a small help window. Improperly placed, and that was caused by the vertical slider being moved down. And on this update, what you'll see is when you pull up your object editor, and if you try to adjust your slider down, it limits you now. So that'll keep it from ever happening again. Okay, and the next change is. Recipe direct object added a new property default value that is used to define the default in the case the recipe row is blank. And this was something brought up by, I believe, Chris Loera. And basically in the recipe processor, recipe segment, under any of these recipe direct objects, you can now create a default value. That way, if the setting in the row is blank, it won't send a blank over to the specific output that you're driving, in this case, let's say fan. So once the default value is set, it'll automatically turn it to that initial setting before sending it over. Okay, so that's a nice new feature. So I would suggest that on all your installations on AC fan, pressure, heat enable, cooling enable, all these things, create the default value, make it off or false. Either one works. Okay. Next change. Server backup. Fixed a bug that caused the check remote PC feature to stop all future checking. That was basically on the server backup object. There are a couple of features here. Basically, every time the primary computer wants to send information over to the backup computer, the first thing that it does is it checks that it can actually create a file, and that's a very quick process that occurs every 15 seconds. When it doesn't get when it errors out on that, it creates a fail, and it sets a transfer fail to true. And when that happens, depending on if you want to well, basically, if it gets a failure, it isn't going to try again in 15 seconds. It's going to wait a longer period of time defined by the check delay time. And so normally that can be set for, let's say, 300 or 120 or something like that. Because the thing is every time it tries to write that small file over there, it'll pause a little bit, especially if that PC is down. So you don't want to create an extra hang in your application. So the bug was that this number was not being properly applied, so it was basically never rechecking, and therefore the transfer fail remained true, and it stopped backing up to the backup computer. Okay, so that's what that is. Then we have reporting screen, numeric view. Okay, so when loading a new file, the numeric view will now display active sensors rather than primary sensors. That's a small change. After running a quality report, the numeric view will now switch to active sensors and will show red and blue values. And basically what that does is, it's kind of nice. When you go into reporting, and if you do, okay. So if I pull up a file and I load a quality report, okay. And what this will do now is, so here's a report, and you'll see that there's some nonconformances here. And now if I go to my numeric screen, it'll actually show me where those nonconformances occurred. So here, and when you click on it, it'll actually display over here on the right side what that quality finding was, what the analysis section that created that nonconformance, and then what the value is. So this is really nice because it lets you analyze the direct data after running a quality report. Now, anything in red is a normal value type, min-max nonconformance, and anything in blue is a rate. So So this is indicating that the part TC rate minimum was less than 0.6, and so that's pretty nice. Now it's also smart enough to tell you nonconformances on calculation type quality card sections as well. So that's basically what we're talking about here. When a quality report runs the rate calc interval. Okay, so the other thing that it does is there was always on the numeric reporting, there was always a rate calculation interval over here, and that was defaulted to 1 before, even though the data manager or data analyzed object was set for, let's say, 5, and that's the interval. That's how many intervals is rate calculated over. And so now when you load a data file, it will set this to the previously set rate calc interval from the data analyze object. But then when you run a quality report, whatever the quality report has as a data interval will be set here too, so that these rates that you show here will correspond to what the quality card had. So that's a new change. And let's see. Okay, so basically that's it for that numeric view. Quality card management screen. Change the phase list to show index of the phase. Okay, so the changes here are, if we go to our quality card programming screen, a lot has changed here. So first of all, you can now enter comments for the quality card. That's new. You can also turn on track changes, and it will create a change log. Every change which you do after that point will be logged. You can't turn that off. If I try clicking this, it won't turn off. And you can also put a card into what I'm calling production use. So when you do that, it will automatically turn on track changes, and it will query you if you want to change a new property. So if, let's say this one here, if I want to turn that guy to approved for production use, and let's say I were to want to change some value here, okay, I type something in, it's going to come up and say this card is approved for production, this change will be tracked, are you sure you want to change this specific setting? I'm going to say no, and it will return that value. So this is just this provides that extra confirmation, so I'm going to turn that off. The other thing that you'll see is, so basically we've got error checking now on the system, and you've got the QC comments and the approval for production use. So those are some of the changes that are mentioned here. There's also a revision field that you'll see here. So here, recipe revision, that's new, and that can be typed in depending on what you want. And there's also you can now copy and paste calculation sections. So before you were only able to copy and paste quality cards and phase selections. Now there's an additional copy and paste for the custom calculation, and that's nice if you want to copy a calculation and paste it to another phase or another card for that matter. Okay, and what else? Data analyze calculation. Okay, so there's a new property in the data analyze calculation object called result display, and that's kind of nice. What that does is, if I run a special calculation, and I'm going to show you some of the. So here I want to run a calculation where I check the part quantity in the run. Okay. So here I'm going to, or actually, let's check part number check. So this is a calculation called part number check. It's analyzing once at the end of the data set. I'm looking at a result variable. I've created a variable here called result, and then I've got a script called before calculation script. If I go in here, what this is actually doing is this is parsing, using a data buy-off object, parsing the batch and counting and looking at each part that was run in that data file and checking that it has the right number of characters. In this case, I'm checking for 10 characters. Okay. Now what I want to do is, because I don't, this isn't just a pass-fail, I want to show some information to the user on this. There is now the ability to basically use the result display property to print out what you want on the report. And so what I'm doing is I'm indicating a pass or a fail, and then telling the person what the part number is and how many characters it has. So the result of that is when I run a quality report here, what you'll see, you gotta wait a second, it's a little slow, yeah. What you'll see here is the part number check right there says fail, this part has 11 characters, fail, this part has 11 characters. So this is the result display property being shown here. And so if it's blank, it basically blanks out first, and then you fill it with that script. So that's a new capability. It lets you customize the quality cards more than we were able to before. Data saving object added the ability to parse recipe rows. Okay, so this is a new feature. Before this, the data file did not save the actual recipe row names, and so what you see in your data, in your reporting, when you go to recipe, is actually pulling those names off the object, off the recipe processor object, but it's not actually pulling that from the data file. So now there is a new data saving type called recipe rows, and the system will automatically create this now. Okay, so that's the recipe rows object, or it's a data saving object called recipe rows, and it's saving a new property in the recipe processor called recipe rows, right? Which you'll see right here. That is an array of, sure enough, it's the array of recipe rows. Okay, so the system now collects that information at the beginning of a run, puts it in that property, and then normally you want to save that recipe rows in your before start run script. So I would normally want to see right here where we're doing all these saves of the recipe, we would want to add a recipe rows do save. Okay. Now if you forget to do this, the system will actually save that record anyway, because I've written the software so that if it hasn't been saved, it will be saved. And that's just useful for the future where we might want to use a quality card to actually look at what was in the recipe, and we want to know what a specific row is. Okay, so that's not really used yet, but we do want it to start saving that information. Okay, and then we have, so that's this right here, and data buy-off parser. There's a new recipe rows feature of the data buy-off parser. I won't get into that right now. Format for time property. This is a property that was on the data analyze object. It was called, and it was basically, you can format the data for date, time, and rates. Now the format for time, there have been cases where it was set for 0.0, but actually that doesn't provide enough resolution, because 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 of a minute is only 6 seconds. So it'll now default to 0.00 when you go into the data analyze object. It will create that and look for anything less than that and extend it out to 0.0. That's a new change. And editing wizard added the ability to search for blank properties in the editing wizard. That's another nice feature. Before, the editing wizard was only able to search for properties that were entered. So what's nice about that is I can say, look for input objects, look at the description property, and before you could search for, let's say, thermo, and it will find only those descriptions that have thermo in it, right? But if I'm looking for ones that are blank, if I just do a blank for the search, it grabs everything. So now you can click search for blank, and it will find all the properties that are blank. So that's useful if you're interested in what you haven't filled out or what might be blank. I also took away the replace button because that was not implemented. So okay, and I think that's it. those are all the changes. Anyway, that'll be going out on probably 10.6 or 10.7. Okay, thank you.